Mysterious trail camera image. This mysterious trail camera image was shared online by a user who explained that it had been captured on their father's property. Hoping someone might recognize what the camera had recorded, they uploaded the unusual image to Reddit and invited others to share their opinions. Instead of providing a clear answer, the photograph quickly divided viewers, with each person seeing something completely different. The image appears to show a large, pale shape, filling much of the camera's view, with features that are difficult to identify. Because the photograph was taken at night using an infrared trail camera, the unusual lighting and close perspective only added to the mystery. Many people stared at the image for several minutes without being able to decide exactly what they were looking at. Surprisingly, the highest-rated responses suggested that the photograph simply showed either a horse standing extremely close to the camera or a moth resting directly in front of the lens. These explanations received the most support, with many users agreeing they were the most likely possibilities. Even so, not everyone was convinced. A large number of viewers admitted they could not make out either a horse or a moth, insisting that the image appeared far stranger than those suggestions implied. The mysterious Halifax slasher incident. The autumn of 1938 settled over the town of Halifax with cold winds, early darkness, and an atmosphere that seemed to grow heavier with each passing day. Nestled among the mills and terraced streets of West Yorkshire, Halifax was a hard-working industrial community where daily routines rarely changed. Families knew their neighbours, workers travelled familiar routes to the textile mills, and evenings were usually quiet. That sense of security was suddenly shattered when a series of frightening incidents gave rise to one of Britain's most extraordinary mysteries, a case that would become known as the Halifax slasher. The alarming events began when two young women arrived at the local police station, visibly distressed. Their clothing had been torn, and they displayed fresh cuts that appeared to have been made by a sharp object. They claimed that an unknown figure had emerged from the darkness, approached without warning, and quickly disappeared after striking. The attacker, they explained, seemed to melt back into the evening mist before anyone else could catch sight of them. News of the incident spread rapidly throughout Halifax. What began as whispered conversations between neighbours soon became the only subject anyone wanted to discuss. Before long, additional reports surfaced from other residents who described remarkably similar encounters. Several people claimed they had been approached unexpectedly by a mysterious stranger carrying a blade, while others insisted they had narrowly escaped after hearing footsteps following them through poorly lit streets. As each new report emerged, anxiety tightened its grip on the town. People became reluctant to leave their homes after sunset. Women who normally walked alone to work began travelling together in groups. Shopkeepers closed earlier than usual, and once busy streets became noticeably quieter long before night had fully arrived. Every unfamiliar face attracted suspicion, while every shadow seemed capable of hiding the elusive attacker. The descriptions given by those claiming to have encountered the mysterious figure only added to the confusion. Some insisted the attacker was tall and dressed in a long, dark coat. Others described someone much shorter with a heavier build. A few claimed the individual had unusual facial features, while others remembered little more than a quick movement before the figure disappeared. One particularly memorable account described strange buckles on the attacker's shoes that reflected the dim streetlights as they hurried away. For local police, the investigation quickly became overwhelming. Despite interviewing numerous witnesses and responding to an increasing number of reports, investigators found remarkably little physical evidence linking the incidents together. Every description seemed to contradict the previous one, making it almost impossible to identify a single suspect. Officers searched alleyways, questioned residents, and increased patrols throughout the town, but the mysterious attacker always seemed to remain just beyond reach. As public concern continued to grow, ordinary residents decided they could no longer rely solely on official investigations. Volunteer patrols began forming throughout Halifax. Groups of local men armed themselves with sticks, heavy walking canes, and improvised clubs before setting out each evening to search for the mysterious figure. Their intentions may have been sincere, but their actions soon created an entirely new problem. Anyone who appeared unfamiliar or behaved nervously risked being surrounded by suspicious crowds demanding answers. Innocent pedestrians found themselves questioned, searched, and occasionally handled roughly by frightened citizens, convinced they had finally discovered the notorious slasher. Fear had transformed the entire community into a place where suspicion overshadowed reason. Recognizing the seriousness of the situation, local authorities requested assistance from Scotland Yard. Experienced detectives travelled from London to review the growing collection of witness statements, medical reports, and investigative notes. Upon arriving, they discovered a town consumed by anxiety. Every conversation centered upon the mysterious attacker, while rumors seemed to spread faster than verified information. The Scotland Yard investigators approached the case differently. Rather than focusing solely on finding an elusive suspect, they carefully examined each reported incident individually. They compared injuries, questioned witnesses repeatedly, and searched for patterns that earlier investigations may have overlooked. Gradually, something unusual began to emerge. Several witness accounts contained significant inconsistencies. Certain details changed between interviews, while timelines occasionally failed to match established facts. Some reported encounters lacked supporting evidence altogether, despite supposedly occurring in busy public areas. The breakthrough came when one of the reported victims, Percy Waddington, admitted that no mysterious attacker had actually approached him. His injuries, he confessed, had been self-inflicted. That confession transformed the entire investigation. As detectives continued questioning other witnesses, additional admissions followed. Several individuals acknowledged that their wounds had not been caused by an unknown stranger. Instead, they explained that they had created the injuries themselves for a variety of personal reasons. Some admitted they wanted attention during a time when the entire town focused on the mysterious attacks. Others described becoming so overwhelmed by the growing panic that they convinced themselves they had experienced something that never truly occurred. With every new confession, the mystery evolved into something entirely different. Investigators gradually realized that the terrifying phantom who had supposedly haunted Halifax's streets may never have existed in the form people imagined. Instead, the real phenomenon appeared to be the extraordinary power of fear itself. As rumors multiplied and anxiety spread from one household to another, the idea of the mysterious slasher became increasingly real within the minds of ordinary people. By the time the investigation concluded, authorities determined that much of the panic had been fueled by a combination of misunderstandings, exaggerated stories, and self-generated incidents that reinforced one another until they overwhelmed the town. Yet remarkably, this explanation did not entirely erase the mystery. Many residents remained convinced that at least some of the original encounters had involved a genuine unknown individual. Others believed that the early reports had inspired later imitations, making it impossible to separate fact from fiction completely. Even decades later, discussions continue regarding whether every incident was truly explained or whether an unidentified figure briefly operated before disappearing into history. The mystery of the Hugang doll. The world is filled with ordinary objects that somehow become surrounded by extraordinary stories, but few have captured the imagination of an entire city, quite like the mysterious Hugang doll of Singapore. During the month of June in 2014, residents travelling through the Hugang district made a discovery that immediately sparked curiosity and unease. Resting quietly beneath a roadside tree sat an old porcelain doll dressed in faded, antique clothing. Although the figure itself appeared unusual enough, it was the cloth tightly wrapped across its eyes that transformed the forgotten toy into one of Singapore's most enduring modern mysteries. Written across the blindfold were Arabic words, leading many to believe the doll had been deliberately placed there as part of an unexplained ritual. The doll's sudden appearance puzzled everyone who passed by. There were no witnesses who claimed to have seen it being placed beneath the tree, and no one came forward to admit ownership. In a city renowned for its cleanliness, order, and constant activity, the sight of an abandoned antique doll sitting silently beside a busy road seemed strangely out of place. Within days, photographs of the figure spread rapidly across social media, where countless people attempted to uncover its origin, while others warned that it should never be disturbed. According to local stories that quickly began circulating, the blindfold served a far more important purpose than simply covering the doll's eyes. Many believed the porcelain figure contained a restless spirit that had become attached to its owner. Unable to free themselves from the unsettling presence, the owner supposedly covered the doll's eyes so it could no longer find its way home. By leaving it beneath a tree far from its original location, they hoped to permanently break whatever unseen connection existed between the doll and their household. As more people visited the site, unusual experiences were increasingly reported. Several individuals claimed the atmosphere surrounding the tree felt noticeably different from the rest of the street, describing an unexpected stillness despite the constant movement of nearby traffic. Others reported sensing an unexplained chill in the air whenever they stood close to the doll, something that felt particularly unusual given Singapore's consistently warm tropical climate. Some of the most unsettling accounts came from those who visited the location after sunset. A number of witnesses insisted the doll appeared to have subtly changed position between visits, while others believed its head had shifted ever so slightly despite nobody touching it. There were also stories of faint whispers being heard near the tree late at night, although nobody could determine where the sounds originated. Whether these reports reflected genuine experiences or the powerful influence of expectation only deepened the mystery. Perhaps the strongest warning surrounding the Hugang doll concerned the blindfold itself. Many locals came to believe that the cloth was intentionally restraining whatever presence existed within the porcelain figure. According to these stories, removing the blindfold would release the unseen force that had supposedly been trapped inside. As a result, even the most curious visitors chose to observe from a respectful distance, unwilling to test the growing legend for themselves. Then, just as mysteriously as it had appeared, the doll disappeared. One day, it was sitting beneath the roadside tree, attracting visitors from across Singapore. The next, it was gone without explanation. No official announcement was ever made regarding its removal, and nobody publicly claimed responsibility for taking it away. Its disappearance only strengthened the legend, leaving behind far more questions than answers. Numerous theories soon emerged. Some believed that a religious figure had quietly removed the doll after performing a cleansing ritual. Others suggested that its original owner had finally returned to retrieve it after realizing the object had attracted widespread attention. More extraordinary accounts claimed the doll had somehow vanished on its own, no longer needing the tree where it had remained for days. Despite attempts to explain the incident as an abandoned collector's item or an elaborate practical joke, those explanations never fully satisfied many who followed the story. The combination of the blindfold, the unusual writing, the unexplained appearance, and the sudden disappearance ensured that the Hugang doll became one of Singapore's most memorable paranormal legends. The mystery of the Palmyra wolves. Within the forests of Palmyra, Maine, where towering pines stretch toward the sky and narrow country roads disappear into miles of untouched wilderness, an extraordinary mystery unfolded during the summer of 2007. In this quiet rural community, where encounters with deer, foxes, and black bears are considered an ordinary part of life, one family experienced something that challenged everything they believed about the natural world. The events surrounding the Martin family have since become one of the most chilling modern mysteries associated with mysterious creatures in North America, leaving behind a story that continues to fascinate researchers and outdoor enthusiasts alike. The encounter reportedly began on what seemed like a completely ordinary evening. Eric and Shelley Martin were relaxing on the porch of their farmhouse, enjoying the peaceful surroundings that had become part of their daily routine. Without warning, the familiar sounds of the forest suddenly disappeared. The constant chorus of insects fell silent, birds stopped calling, and an overwhelming stillness settled across the property. The abrupt silence immediately caught their attention, creating the unsettling feeling that something unusual had entered the area. Wanting to understand what had caused the disturbance, the couple directed a flashlight toward the driveway. The beam illuminated a sight they never expected to witness. Standing only a short distance away were 5 enormous wolf-like creatures. According to the family, the animals remained perfectly still, staring directly toward the house with an intensity unlike anything they had ever experienced. These were not ordinary wolves. They appeared significantly larger than any known canine, with thick, dark fur covering heavily built bodies that seemed almost impossibly powerful. What made the encounter truly extraordinary was the way the creatures moved. Rather than remaining on all fours, several of the beings reportedly rose effortlessly onto their hind legs. Witnesses described them standing between 7 and 8 feet tall while maintaining perfect balance. Even more astonishing, they appeared capable of moving comfortably in an upright position, with smooth, natural movements that resembled neither a wolf nor a bear. The family later explained that watching multiple creatures display the same impossible behavior convinced them they were looking at something entirely unknown. The situation rapidly became even more frightening. One of the towering creatures suddenly charged toward the farmhouse with remarkable speed. Realizing the danger, the family hurried inside and secured every door before retreating upstairs. From the safety of an upstairs bedroom, they listened as the unexplained visitors surrounded the house. Throughout the long night, heavy footsteps echoed across the porch outside. At various moments, the family reported hearing scratching sounds moving across the roof and along the upper sections of the home. The noises suggested that whatever surrounded the farmhouse possessed unusual agility as well as remarkable size. Rather than behaving like ordinary wildlife searching for food, the creatures appeared to remain close to the home for hours, creating the impression that they were deliberately observing those inside. Only after daylight finally arrived did the activity cease. Looking outside, the family discovered that the mysterious visitors had disappeared into the surrounding forests without leaving any obvious indication of where they had gone. However, according to their account, evidence of the encounter remained behind. Deep claw marks had reportedly been left on portions of the property, while unusually large footprints could still be seen impressed into the ground around the farmhouse. The Palmyra encounter quickly attracted attention among researchers interested in unexplained mysteries. Many compared the creatures to other reports of large, upright canine beings that have occasionally surfaced throughout North America. However, this case stood apart because it involved an entire group rather than a single mysterious creature. The consistency of the witnesses' descriptions regarding their appearance, behavior, and extraordinary movement has continued to make the case one of the most unusual reports ever documented. The experience also had a lasting emotional impact on the family. Long after the encounter ended, they reportedly continued to feel uneasy living in the isolated farmhouse. Eventually, the events became significant enough that they chose to leave the property behind, unable to shake the memory of what they believed had surrounded their home that summer night. As interest in the case grew, the story was featured in various television programs and paranormal discussions. The family later commented that some dramatized versions exaggerated certain details for entertainment, yet they consistently maintained that the central events of that night were accurately remembered. Despite years of public attention, they never withdrew their account of encountering the enormous upright creatures. Today, the mystery of the Palmyra wolves remains unresolved. The mystery of the Circleville letter writer. The quiet town of Circleville, Ohio, seemed like the last place anyone would expect to become the setting for one of America's most enduring mysteries. During the mid-1970s, it was a close-knit community where neighbors greeted one another by name, children played in quiet streets, and life followed a familiar rhythm. Beneath that peaceful atmosphere, however, an invisible force was quietly beginning to unravel the town's sense of security. It all started with a single anonymous letter. Before long, that one envelope grew into a relentless campaign of intimidation that would haunt Circleville for almost 2 decades, leaving behind fear, suspicion, and questions that remain unanswered to this day. The mysterious author quickly became known as the Circleville letter writer. Their distinctive block-style handwriting appeared on envelope after envelope, each containing personal information about the lives of local residents. These were not vague accusations or idle rumors. The letters revealed intimate details about relationships, financial matters, family disagreements, and private conversations that seemingly should have been known only to those directly involved. The remarkable accuracy of the information convinced many that the writer was someone living within the community, quietly observing everything while remaining completely anonymous. One of the earliest and most persistent targets was Mary Gillespie, a local school bus driver. The anonymous writer repeatedly accused her of having a secret relationship with the superintendent of the local school district. The letters demanded that the alleged relationship come to an end immediately and warned of serious consequences if the warnings were ignored. Rather than fading away, the campaign intensified. Similar letters soon arrived at the Gillespie family home, targeting Mary's husband, Ron Gillespie. The anonymous author mocked him, insisting he had been deceived while claiming to possess detailed knowledge of the family's private life. As more residents began receiving similar correspondence, unease spread throughout Circleville. Friends quietly questioned one another, neighbors became increasingly suspicious, and everyday conversations were clouded by uncertainty. The unknown writer appeared to know exactly who had spoken to local authorities, what had been discussed behind closed doors, and even where certain individuals had traveled on specific days. Every new letter seemed to prove that whoever was responsible remained several steps ahead of everyone attempting to identify them. The mystery took a dramatic turn during August in 1977. According to those closest to the family, Ron Gillespie received a telephone call that allegedly revealed the identity of the anonymous writer. Determined to confront the individual responsible for months of fear and harassment, he left home carrying a .22 caliber pistol. He reportedly told his family that he intended to settle the matter once and for all. Later that evening, tragedy struck. Ron was found inside his pickup truck after it had left the roadway and collided with a tree. Authorities concluded that the incident was an accident. Yet almost immediately, several unusual details raised new questions. Investigators determined that Ron's pistol had been fired exactly once before the collision. What happened during those final moments remains uncertain. Who he intended to meet, why the firearm had been discharged, and what caused his vehicle to leave the road have never been fully explained. Rather than ending the anonymous campaign, Ron's passing appeared to embolden the mysterious writer. New letters soon arrived, referring directly to the incident and suggesting that far more had happened than the public had been told. For Mary's family, the frightening ordeal showed no signs of ending. Several years later, in 1983, the situation escalated once again. While driving her usual school bus route, Mary noticed a large handwritten sign positioned beside the road. It contained insulting messages directed specifically at her. Concerned that children aboard the bus might see it, she stopped the vehicle and walked over to remove the display. As she pulled at the sign, she made a startling discovery. Hidden behind it was a carefully constructed device containing a loaded .25 caliber handgun. The mechanism had apparently been designed to activate when someone attempted to remove the sign. Fortunately, it failed to operate. Investigators later examined the firearm and discovered that although someone had attempted to remove the serial number, forensic specialists were able to recover it. The weapon was eventually traced to Paul Freshour, the former brother-in-law of Ron Gillespie. At the time, Freshour was involved in a difficult family dispute, and investigators believed they had finally uncovered the identity of the elusive letter writer. During the trial, handwriting specialists testified that Freshour's writing closely resembled the distinctive block lettering used throughout the anonymous correspondence. Combined with the recovered firearm and questions surrounding his whereabouts, prosecutors argued they had assembled a compelling case. Freshour firmly denied every allegation. Despite maintaining his innocence, he was convicted and received a lengthy prison sentence. For many people in Circleville, the conviction appeared to bring an end to years of uncertainty. The community believed the mysterious author had finally been identified. Yet the greatest mystery was only just beginning. While Paul Freshour remained securely imprisoned, new Circleville letters continued appearing in mailboxes across the region. The handwriting remained identical. The tone was unchanged. Even more remarkably, several letters openly mocked investigators for believing they had solved the case. Others suggested that the wrong individual had been imprisoned while the true author remained free. Some of the correspondence reportedly reached prison officials themselves, continuing the campaign despite Freshour having extremely limited access to communication or writing materials. His supporters argued that it would have been virtually impossible for him to continue such an elaborate operation under constant supervision, raising profound doubts about whether investigators had truly identified the correct suspect. As the years passed, numerous alternative theories emerged. Some believed Paul Freshour had been deliberately blamed by someone seeking revenge during ongoing family disagreements. Others suggested that several individuals may have worked together, sharing information and deliberately imitating the same handwriting style to confuse investigators. Another theory proposed that the anonymous writer occupied a trusted position within the community, allowing them access to sensitive information while avoiding suspicion. No single explanation managed to answer every question. When Paul Freshour was eventually released in 1994, the letters gradually became less frequent before eventually stopping altogether. Even after regaining his freedom, he continued insisting that he had never been responsible for writing them. He spent many years attempting to clear his name, convinced that the real author had never been identified. The Todmorden Incident. At the heart of the story are two seemingly separate events that unfolded only months apart, each leaving behind questions that have never been fully answered. The mysterious circumstances surrounding the discovery of Zygmunt Adamski and the extraordinary experience reported by Police Constable Alan Godfrey have become permanently linked, forming a puzzle that continues to intrigue those fascinated by the unknown. The first chapter of the mystery began during the month of June, when 56-year-old Zygmunt Adamski disappeared after leaving his home. His sudden absence immediately concerned family members, especially because he had left without taking many of his personal belongings and had no known reason to vanish. For several days, extensive searches produced no trace of him. Then, in a discovery that stunned investigators, Adamski was found resting on top of a 10-foot-high coal pile at Todmorden Railway Yard, almost 20 miles from where he had last been seen. The scene presented investigators with an extraordinary collection of unanswered questions. There were no footprints leading across the loose coal that might explain how he reached the summit of the mound, nor were there any signs that another person had recently climbed it. Adamski's clothing appeared strangely arranged, with several items fastened incorrectly, giving the impression that someone unfamiliar with the garments had helped dress him. His shirt was missing entirely, while his hair appeared to have been roughly trimmed. Even more puzzling were unusual marks around his neck and shoulders that had been covered with a strange green ointment that could not be identified during examination. Despite being missing for several days, he reportedly displayed only around 1 day's worth of facial stubble, adding yet another unexplained detail to an already remarkable case. The circumstances surrounding Adamski's final hours baffled everyone involved in the investigation. The local coroner reportedly remarked that it was among the most perplexing cases encountered during his career. With no obvious explanation for how Adamski arrived at such an inaccessible location, speculation continued to grow throughout the local community. Although investigators worked diligently to piece together the missing timeline, the mystery remained unresolved. Only a few months later, another extraordinary event unfolded in the same area. During the early hours of the 28th of November, 1980, Police Constable Alan Godfrey was carrying out what should have been a routine patrol. His assignment involved searching for stray cattle that had reportedly wandered onto Burnley Road. As he drove along the quiet roadway, something entirely unexpected appeared directly ahead. Hovering only a few feet above the road was an enormous diamond-shaped object, unlike anything he had ever encountered. According to Godfrey, the lower portion appeared to rotate silently, while the upper section remained perfectly still. Dark, window-like features surrounded part of the object, reflecting the dim glow from his patrol car's headlights. Despite its enormous size, the object produced no engine noise whatsoever. Attempting to follow standard police procedure, Godfrey reached for his radio to report what he was seeing. However, the radio suddenly became overwhelmed with static and refused to function. At the same time, the electronics inside his patrol vehicle also appeared to malfunction. Remaining calm despite the extraordinary circumstances, he began sketching the unusual object inside his notebook while sitting inside the stationary patrol car. Moments later, an intense flash of brilliant white light filled the entire roadway. The sudden burst forced him to shield his eyes from the overwhelming brightness. When the light faded, the mysterious object had vanished completely. Even more disturbing, Godfrey discovered that he was no longer positioned where he remembered stopping. His patrol car had somehow moved further along the road, with the engine still running and the windscreen wipers continuing their steady motion as though nothing unusual had occurred. After returning to the police station, another astonishing detail became apparent. Approximately 30 minutes of time had completely disappeared from his memory. He had no recollection whatsoever of what had happened during that missing period. The physical evidence also raised further questions. One of his heavy police boots had been damaged, with the sole split apart, while an unusual irritation had appeared on part of his skin that had not been present before the encounter. In an effort to better understand the missing period, Godfrey later underwent hypnotic regression. During these sessions, he described fragmented memories of finding himself inside a brightly illuminated room where he encountered several unusual figures. He recalled the presence of a tall individual with a beard who appeared calm and authoritative, accompanied by several smaller beings with featureless faces. Whether these recovered memories represented literal events or were symbolic reconstructions remains one of the greatest mysteries surrounding the case. Regardless of interpretation, the missing time itself has never been satisfactorily explained. What makes the Todmorden mystery even more remarkable is that Godfrey was not the only person reporting unusual activity that morning. Around the same time, several police officers patrolling different parts of the surrounding area independently reported observing an unusual blue light moving across the sky. Additional witnesses from nearby communities also described seeing silent, glowing objects traveling above the countryside. These independent reports added another layer of intrigue, suggesting that something unusual may indeed have been occurring over West Yorkshire during those early morning hours. As public attention surrounding the incident grew, Alan Godfrey found himself subjected to intense scrutiny. His account attracted widespread discussion, while official examinations and psychological assessments followed. Although opinions regarding the encounter remained divided, Godfrey consistently maintained his account of the events for the rest of his life. The combination of his professional background, the unexplained physical details, and the independent witness reports ensured that the case would never simply fade into obscurity. The mystery of the Moffat family incident. The boundaries of ordinary life are not always shattered by a single dramatic event. Sometimes they slowly dissolve over months and years, leaving behind a mystery that becomes increasingly difficult to explain. For the Moffat family of Rancho Cucamonga, California, that unsettling journey reportedly began in 1987 and continued for approximately 6 years. Throughout that period, the family described an extraordinary series of unexplained events that transformed their home into the center of one of the most unusual paranormal cases ever documented. What makes the Moffat case so remarkable is not only the sheer number of reported incidents, but the way the story combines unexplained occurrences with personal family history, creating a mystery that continues to fascinate researchers today. According to the family, the strange activity began shortly after an elderly relative received a traditional healing ritual performed by a caretaker from Guatemala. The ceremony had been intended to bring comfort and peace, but almost immediately afterward, the atmosphere inside the house reportedly changed. Family members described an overwhelming sensation that an unseen presence had entered the home. As the disturbances continued, they eventually gave the mysterious force a name: Mr. Entity. At first, the activity appeared relatively subtle. Unusual sounds echoed throughout the house, objects were discovered in unexpected locations, and an overwhelming feeling of being watched became part of everyday life. However, as the weeks passed, the reported occurrence became increasingly dramatic. The family claimed that household items would suddenly appear where they had never been before, including one extraordinary account involving a spear that allegedly materialized inside a bedroom. Furniture was reportedly discovered stacked in unusual formations that seemed impossible to assemble without making considerable noise. Perhaps even more unsettling were the strange messages that allegedly began appearing throughout the home. According to the family, words would slowly form across fogged bathroom mirrors without anyone touching the glass. Cryptic symbols reportedly appeared on walls, while written messages seemed to encourage communication with the unseen presence. These incidents convinced the family that whatever occupied the house possessed intelligence, and was deliberately attempting to interact with them. Among the most alarming reports were claims involving objects moving through the air. The family described knives suddenly leaving kitchen counters and traveling across rooms without any visible cause. One incident allegedly ended with a knife embedding itself into the frame surrounding a family photograph. Events such as these transformed the disturbances from unsettling curiosities into experiences the family believed posed a genuine danger. Hoping to leave the unexplained activity behind, the family eventually relocated to another home. Surprisingly, they claimed the disturbances continued exactly as before. Believing the first move had simply been unsuccessful, they relocated again, and later a third time. Each move reportedly produced the same outcome. According to the Moffats, the strange presence appeared to follow them rather than remain connected to a particular building. This aspect of the case has remained one of its greatest mysteries, suggesting that the reported occurrence was somehow connected to the family themselves rather than any specific location. As time passed, the alleged entity reportedly communicated increasingly disturbing messages. The family believed it claimed to have returned to collect an ancient debt connected to events that had taken place generations earlier. Whether these communications reflected a genuine paranormal intelligence or something far more difficult to understand remains entirely unknown, but they added another layer of complexity to an already extraordinary case. Years later, when researchers began examining the family's extensive collection of photographs, notes, and personal records, another unexpected dimension of the story reportedly emerged. Beyond the unexplained events inside the home, investigators uncovered troubling details involving family relationships and long-hidden personal conflicts. Allegations surfaced suggesting that certain members of the household may have been involved in troubling behavior unrelated to the paranormal claims. These revelations introduced a completely different perspective on the case and complicated attempts to understand what had truly occurred. Rather than providing clear answers, these discoveries only deepened the mystery. Some researchers continued to believe the family had experienced a genuine and prolonged paranormal disturbance, unlike almost any other on record. Others suggested that at least some of the reported events may have been influenced by hidden family tensions or carefully orchestrated actions occurring behind the scenes. The possibility that both unexplained experiences and human conflict existed simultaneously has left the case open to ongoing interpretation. The mystery of the Doppelschwand phenomenon. Within the shadow of the Swiss Alps, where towering peaks rise above dense forests and narrow valleys, lies the quiet village of Doppelschwand. Surrounded by breathtaking scenery, the community appears peaceful and untouched by time. Rolling green hills, traditional wooden chalets, and the distant sound of cowbells create the image of a perfect alpine village. Yet for generations, another reputation has quietly followed Doppelschwand. Long after the sun disappears behind the mountains, many residents and visitors have reported witnessing strange lights and shadowy figures that continue to defy explanation. Together, these encounters have become known as the Doppelschwand phenomenon, one of Switzerland's most enduring unexplained mysteries. The mystery centers around the forests that surround the village. According to countless eyewitnesses, unusual glowing spheres frequently appear between the trees after darkness falls. These mysterious lights are unlike ordinary lanterns or distant vehicle headlights. Witnesses consistently describe them as soft, pale orbs that seem to generate their own light while floating silently through the woodland. In many reports, the lights appear in groups of 3, moving together with remarkable precision as though connected by an unseen force. What makes these encounters particularly unsettling is the unusual behavior of the glowing spheres. Rather than drifting randomly through the forest, they appear to respond directly to nearby people. Many hikers have described noticing the lights watching from a distance before realizing they were slowly following along the edge of the trees. If the witness begins walking faster, the lights reportedly increase their own speed. If the person suddenly stops, the glowing orbs also come to an immediate halt, maintaining almost exactly the same distance. This strange interaction has convinced many locals that the lights possess an awareness unlike any ordinary natural phenomenon. As remarkable as the mysterious lights are, they represent only part of the larger mystery. Equally disturbing are the repeated reports of dark, featureless figures standing silently within the surrounding forests. Witnesses describe seeing tall, human-like silhouettes positioned just beyond the reach of their flashlights. Unlike ordinary shadows created by moonlight, these figures appear unusually solid, almost absorbing the surrounding light rather than reflecting it. Their complete lack of facial features or visible clothing makes them appear even more unsettling. According to many accounts, these silent figures simply stand motionless, watching from the edge of forest paths or beside isolated mountain roads. They rarely move, and when curious witnesses attempt to approach them, the figures disappear completely within moments. Several people have reported that immediately after the figures vanish, the surrounding air becomes noticeably colder, accompanied by an overwhelming feeling that they are no longer alone. Even experienced hikers familiar with the mountains have admitted that these encounters left them unsettled. The people of Doppelschwand have preserved stories of these mysterious appearances for generations. Local folklore speaks of wandering spirits that never found peace, forever traveling through the forests and valleys beneath the towering mountains. According to these traditions, anyone encountering the glowing lights should never attempt to follow them. Likewise, those who see the shadowy figures are advised to quietly continue walking without making direct eye contact. Older generations have long believed that acknowledging these mysterious beings too closely invites misfortune or causes a person to lose their way within the mountains. Although modern investigators have proposed numerous explanations, the reports have continued remarkably consistently over the years. Some have suggested that unusual atmospheric conditions create optical effects among the mountain mist, while others believe reflections from distant villages occasionally produce strange visual illusions. Still others argue that the isolation of the forests, combined with darkness and natural anxiety, encourages the mind to interpret ordinary sights in extraordinary ways. However, those who have experienced the phenomenon firsthand often insist that these explanations fail to account for what they witnessed. Multiple independent observers have described seeing the same glowing lights moving together at precisely the same time. Others recall watching the mysterious spheres respond directly to their own movements in ways that seem impossible to dismiss as coincidence. Likewise, numerous witnesses who had never previously heard the local legends later described the same silent, featureless figures standing among the trees. The remarkable consistency of these accounts has kept the mystery alive throughout the decades. Visitors continue arriving in Doppelschwand, hoping to glimpse the strange lights for themselves, while local residents quietly accept that certain parts of the surrounding forest possess an atmosphere unlike anywhere else. Although many refuse to discuss their own experiences publicly, the stories continue to pass from one generation to the next. The mystery of the Black Stick Men. Throughout history, stories of mysterious creatures have often described towering, muscular beings that leave enormous footprints, broken branches, or unmistakable physical evidence behind. However, in more recent years, a very different mystery has quietly captured the attention of paranormal researchers. Unlike traditional mysterious creatures, these entities appear to challenge the very nature of reality itself. Witnesses consistently describe these figures as impossibly thin, appearing almost as though someone had drawn the outline of a person using a single stroke of black ink. Rather than possessing muscles, facial features, or recognizable clothing, the Black Stick Men appear as solid silhouettes of complete darkness. Their forms seem to absorb every trace of surrounding light, creating an unnaturally dark presence even during daylight hours. Many estimate that these strange beings stand anywhere between 7 and well over 12 feet tall, with elongated arms and legs that appear far too long to belong to any known living creature. Their heads are smooth and featureless, offering no visible eyes, nose, or mouth. Instead of resembling an ordinary person standing in the woods, they appear more like living shadows that somehow exist independently of the environment around them. Perhaps even more unsettling than their appearance is the remarkable consistency of the circumstances surrounding these encounters. Reports almost always take place in isolated woodland areas where visibility is limited by dense trees and thick undergrowth. Many witnesses describe experiencing an overwhelming feeling that something is watching them long before they actually notice the figure itself. It often begins with an unexplained sense of dread, followed by an irresistible urge to look toward the tree line. Standing silently between the trunks is the impossibly thin black figure, perfectly motionless as though it has been observing from a distance for some time. The black stick men rarely display any obvious aggression. Instead, they simply watch in complete silence. According to those who have seen them, this silent observation somehow feels far more unsettling than if the figures had approached directly. Their complete lack of movement creates an unnatural stillness that seems completely out of place within the constantly shifting environment of the forest. When they do begin to move, witnesses describe motion unlike anything normally seen in nature. Some report jerky, almost mechanical movements, while others claim the figures glide effortlessly across the ground without lifting their feet. Even more unusual is the complete absence of sound. Dry leaves remain undisturbed, fallen branches never crack beneath their feet, and surrounding vegetation appears completely unaffected by their presence. They seem to pass through the wilderness without interacting with it in any physical way. Another detail reported repeatedly involves the figures hiding behind remarkably narrow trees. Witnesses explain that the trunk should be far too small to conceal a human body, yet only a thin portion of the entity remains visible. As soon as the observer changes position, the figure simply disappears from sight. Some believe this occurs because the beings possess almost no visible depth, allowing them to vanish completely when viewed from certain angles. As more accounts have surfaced over the years, researchers interested in unexplained mysteries have proposed numerous theories regarding what these mysterious entities might actually be. One of the most intriguing ideas suggests that the black stick men originate from another dimension entirely. According to this theory, they are not living creatures in the traditional sense, but visitors whose true forms cannot be fully perceived within our reality. The flat, featureless appearance may simply be the limited portion of their existence that humans are capable of observing. This explanation would account for their unusual shape, their apparent ability to disappear instantly, and their tendency to move through forests without disturbing the physical environment. Others have suggested they may be silent observers rather than explorers. Their consistent behavior of simply standing and watching has led some to speculate that they are monitoring human activity rather than interacting with it. The fact that so few witnesses report direct communication only deepens the mystery surrounding their purpose. Many people who claim to have encountered these entities also describe unusual environmental effects. Before seeing the figure, they often notice that the surrounding forest suddenly becomes unnaturally quiet. Birds stop singing, insects seem to disappear, and even the wind appears to lose its voice. Several witnesses mention feeling static electricity across their skin, while others report that the air seems strangely distorted, almost like shimmering heat rising from pavement on a summer afternoon. These sensations often begin moments before the figure becomes visible, leading many to believe the presence of the entity somehow affects the environment itself. What makes the black stick men particularly fascinating is how remarkably similar the descriptions remain, despite originating from different parts of the world. Individuals with no apparent connection often describe the same impossible proportions, the same complete lack of facial features, the same silent behavior, and the same overwhelming feeling of being watched. Many insist they had never heard of the phenomenon before experiencing it themselves, making the similarities even more difficult to dismiss. Unlike many reports involving mysterious creatures, sightings of the black stick men almost never leave behind physical evidence. There are no footprints pressed into soft ground, no broken branches marking their path, and no biological traces for investigators to examine. Instead, the only evidence remains the testimony of those who encountered them and the lasting impression those experiences leave behind. Many witnesses describe the encounter as something they never fully recover from, explaining that it permanently changed the way they viewed both nature and reality itself. Massive unidentified radar anomaly detected over Alabama. On the afternoon of June 26, 2015, at approximately 3:48 in the afternoon, weather radar systems across central Alabama recorded something highly unusual: a massive anomaly stretching across thousands of square miles. This strange formation appeared suddenly, lingering for about 20 minutes before vanishing just as quickly as it had emerged. The anomaly did not resemble any known meteorological event, leaving meteorologists, researchers, and the public alike grasping for answers. What followed only deepened the mystery. Shortly after the radar image began circulating, eyewitness reports and social media posts emerged, showing large plumes of black smoke rising from Redstone Arsenal, a well-known US Army post in Huntsville, Alabama. The timing was too close to be considered a coincidence. Redstone Arsenal has long been associated with advanced military research and development, but the nature of the day's activity quickly drew public concern. Military officials acknowledged that testing was underway at the base and stated that the smoke seen by residents was a result of those operations. However, they declined to offer any specifics regarding the nature of the test, citing security protocols. Their response, while acknowledging the activity, left many feeling uneasy due to its lack of transparency. In an era where information spreads rapidly and public trust can be fragile, the vague explanation did little to reassure nearby communities. Residents and social media users began raising questions not only about the radar anomaly, but also about potential safety risks. With no clear answers, speculation filled the void. Some asked whether the testing involved chemicals, and if so, whether those substances could pose a risk to public health. Others questioned whether the radar interference was caused by experimental technology or even classified aerial operations. The general consensus among local residents and observers was that the public should be more thoroughly informed, especially when the consequences of such tests could impact their health or environment. While no official evacuation was issued, some community members expressed concern about remaining near an area that could potentially expose them to unknown risks. Without knowing the specifics of the test or what exactly caused the radar anomaly, individuals felt they were left to make decisions without adequate information. Some even debated temporarily relocating until more clarity was provided. The incident has sparked broader conversations about the level of communication between military institutions and the civilian population, especially in cases involving unexplainable activity. As radar technology becomes more sensitive and capable of detecting even minor disturbances, anomalies like the one in Alabama are likely to draw increased attention. In this case, the combination of a visual radar signature, visible smoke, and official silence has created a sense of unresolved tension in the community. To this day, no detailed explanation has been given for what occurred at Redstone Arsenal during the anomaly, leaving many to wonder if the true nature of the event will ever be disclosed. Until then, the June 26th radar anomaly remains one of the most compelling unexplained incidents in recent memory for the region. Mysterious update on the Paracas skulls. The Paracas skulls of Peru have continued to baffle researchers and archaeologists for nearly a century, and recent developments have only deepened the mystery. These ancient remains, discovered in 1928 by Peruvian archaeologist Julio Tello, have sparked global fascination due to their extraordinarily elongated shapes and unusual anatomical features. Found in the Paracas region on Peru's southern coast, over 300 skulls were unearthed in a massive burial site, many of which were dated to be between 2,000 and 3,000 years old. While cranial deformities practices are known in various cultures, where infant skulls were deliberately shaped using binding techniques, researchers examining the Paracas skulls began to suspect that more than external manipulation was at play. One of the most striking updates that has surfaced is the discovery that many of these skulls lack a sagittal suture, a key structural feature found in all normal human skulls. This suture connects the two parietal bones at the top of the skull, and its absence presents a serious challenge to the assumption that the skulls were shaped purely through external pressure. L.A. Marzulli, a researcher who has studied the skulls extensively, identified several anomalies that set the Paracas skulls apart from standard human anatomy. Among these were significantly larger eye sockets, more prominent cheekbones, and skulls that weighed as much as 60% more than an average human skull. One of the more critical observations was the unusual placement and size of the foramen magnum, the opening at the base of the skull through which the spinal cord passes. In the Paracas skulls, this feature was found closer to the back of the skull and smaller in diameter than what is typically seen in human anatomy. After further examination, researchers noticed that many of the skulls did not show any sign of the sagittal suture. While this could sometimes occur as a rare genetic anomaly, the frequency with which it appeared in the Paracas collection led researchers to consider the possibility that this may represent a genetic trait rather than an isolated case of cranial modification. In addition to anatomical studies, DNA analysis was conducted to determine whether there was anything unusual about the genetic composition of the individuals. Hair and bone powder were extracted from the base of the skulls near the foramen magnum to reduce the risk of contamination. The researchers took extra precautions, wearing protective clothing and sending the samples to 3 independent laboratories in the United States and Canada. The labs were not informed of the origin of the samples, allowing the results to remain as unbiased as possible. What came back from the labs was unexpected. One of the samples, taken from hair, showed a DNA sequence that had not been previously documented in known human genetic databases. While the other 2 samples were identified as mostly human in origin, they were traced to regions in Eastern and Western Europe. An unusual finding considering the skulls were discovered in Peru, a region historically isolated from Europe prior to the age of exploration. This combination of genetic anomalies, unusual skull morphology, and missing anatomical features, such as the sagittal suture, has led to growing intrigue and speculation about the origin of the Paracas people. While some suggest that these skulls may represent a now extinct branch of early humans with unique genetic traits, others have offered more speculative theories, ranging from ancient migration to the involvement of unknown lineages. Despite the ongoing debate, the Paracas skulls remain one of the most puzzling archaeological mysteries in South America. The absence of the sagittal suture in many of the skulls is particularly significant, as it challenges the prevailing notion that the elongation was purely cultural. Instead, it opens the door to the possibility of natural genetic divergence, a population with distinct biological traits, or even links to long-forgotten civilizations. As technology continues to improve and more detailed genetic sequencing becomes available, researchers hope to better understand the lineage and origin of these individuals. For now, the Paracas skulls continue to raise more questions than answers, offering a rare glimpse into a mysterious chapter of human, or possibly non-human, history. The mysterious case of Martin Rodriguez. The mysterious and haunting case of Martin Rodriguez, often referred to as one of the Tordesillas boys, remains one of Spain's most compelling and lesser-known UFO encounters. Though little discussed outside of Spain, this extraordinary event has captured the attention of UFO researchers due to its lasting physical and neurological consequences. The incident not only involved multiple witnesses, but led to a lifetime of medical challenges for Martin, including 14 brain surgeries. It remains one of the few cases where an alleged encounter with an unidentified object left physical traces both on the environment and on a human body. The event took place on the evening of October 1, 1977, on the outskirts of the town of Tordesillas, Spain. Martin Rodriguez and his friend Fernando Caravelos, both 7 years old at the time, were playing a game of hide-and-seek near an abandoned farm building. Wanting to find a secluded hiding spot, the 2 boys ventured toward an old corral they had explored before. Knowing that people sometimes used the area as a temporary shelter, they decided to check if it was empty by tossing a stone through a broken window. What they heard next was completely unexpected, a loud metallic clang, like the sound of a heavy steel container being struck. Curiosity led the 2 boys to investigate further. Inside the dilapidated structure, they discovered something that neither of them could explain. A metallic, drop-shaped object, supported by 3 zigzag legs, with circular windows and a strange nozzle-like feature on one side. Steam seemed to surround it, along with what looked like floating soap bubbles. The object emitted a low-pitched, irritating hum, unlike anything the boys had encountered before. As they stood frozen, the craft began to vibrate and rise. Fernando instinctively jumped back and tried to pull Martin with him, but Martin seemed paralyzed. A bright beam of light shot from the object and struck Martin directly in the chest. Fernando fled in fear, running to get help. When they returned, they found Martin lying on the ground, semi-conscious and unresponsive. Martin was taken home, but his condition did not improve. He didn't speak. His skin turned pale and yellow, and his pupils were abnormally dilated. His parents, desperate for answers, visited the corral and found scorched earth marked by 3 triangular impressions. The area also had a strong smell of sulfur. Samples of the soil were collected and years later examined by local journalist and UFO researcher Iker Jimenez. Analysis suggested that the soil had been subjected to extreme temperatures, close to 600 degrees, lending further credibility to the physical reality of the event. What followed for Martin was a life marked by recurring health complications. Not long after the encounter, he began suffering from persistent stomach pain, vision problems, and fainting spells. He was admitted to a hospital in Valladolid and diagnosed with hydrocephalus. In total, Martin would undergo 14 surgeries, including 13 procedures that required opening his skull. The condition seemed to emerge following his experience in the corral and left doctors puzzled. Despite the debilitating effects on his health, something unusual began to develop in Martin. After the incident, his ability to understand and retain complex information significantly improved. Before the event, he had struggled in school, particularly with subjects like mathematics. Following the encounter, Martin reportedly developed an advanced capacity for solving logical problems and retaining new information, an intellectual shift that his doctors and family could not fully explain. Though many dismissed the incident as coincidence or a misunderstanding, the consistency of the eyewitness accounts and the lingering physical evidence made it difficult to ignore. Fernando and the other eyewitnesses maintained their story, and Martin's lifelong medical records continued to point to a major turning point in his health, beginning at the time of the event. In later years, Martin appeared on the television program Cuarto Milenio, hosted by Iker Jimenez, where he shared his experience in more detail. Jimenez also published the story in his book Enigma Sin Resolver, highlighting the strangeness and depth of the Tordesillas case. The television program reignited public interest and brought more attention to what some believe is one of the most compelling UFO encounters involving a direct biological impact on a witness. Comparisons have been drawn to other well-documented cases of UFO encounters resulting in physical symptoms. One example is the 1967 incident near Falcon Lake in Canada, where Stefan Michalak suffered burns after encountering a disc-shaped craft. Other declassified reports from government archives, obtained through Freedom of Information Act requests, describe similar injuries, including radiation burns, neurological symptoms, and unexplained medical conditions following close encounters with unidentified aerial phenomena. The timing and circumstances surrounding Martin Rodriguez's symptoms remain suspicious. The sudden onset, combined with the physical traces found at the scene and the consistency in witness reports, continue to baffle those who have studied the case. The Tordesillas incident is more than just a UFO story. It is a deeply human account of how an unexplained encounter changed a young boy's life forever. For Martin Rodriguez, what happened that October evening left both visible and invisible marks that would follow him for decades. Whether one believes in extraterrestrial involvement or sees it as a yet unexplained natural event, the case continues to captivate researchers and serves as a powerful reminder that some mysteries remain far beyond our current understanding. The strange case of rugby player Levi Davis, who disappeared without a trace. Levi Davis, a gifted and charismatic young man, captured public attention not only for his accomplishments on the rugby field, but also for his candidness, creativity, and openness about personal struggles. Born in the United Kingdom and rising through the ranks of professional rugby, Levi became known for his athleticism, vibrant personality, and musical talent. At just 25 years old, he had already achieved several major milestones in both sports and entertainment, which made his sudden and unexplained disappearance in late 2022 all the more troubling. Levi began his professional rugby career with Bath United in 2017 and made his first senior appearance in 2019. In the years that followed, he played for teams such as the Ealing Trailfinders and Worthing Raiders. Levi's creativity extended beyond sports. In late 2019, he appeared on Celebrity X Factor, showcasing his musical talent and igniting a passion for performing. Under the stage name Leader, he released a debut single titled With Me in September 2022, with plans to continue releasing music. His growing interest in songwriting and production led him to travel to Ibiza in October 2022 to collaborate with his friend Richard Squire on new music. Initially, Levi's time in Ibiza appeared to be uneventful. He arrived on October 17th and spent time working on material for his album. However, on October 28th, Levi told Richard that he was heading into town. The following day, Levi informed Richard that he had boarded a boat to Barcelona to meet some friends. Although Richard expressed concern, Levi reassured him that he would call once he arrived. That call never came. While on the boat, Levi sent a video to his mother showing the scenic view and expressing excitement about traveling across Europe. Later that night, he sent her another video of a singer performing in a bar. He also contacted a friend named Mike Guida just after midnight on October 30th, leaving a voice note describing how beautiful Barcelona was and how creatively inspired he felt. This voice note was the last known contact anyone had with him. When days passed with no word from Levi, Richard contacted Levi's family and friends. On November 8th, Levi was officially reported missing. Authorities quickly reviewed CCTV footage and found Levi leaving the old Irish pub in Barcelona at around 10 in the evening on October 29th. The footage showed him turning left outside the bar, heading away from the ferry port. His final phone signal was traced to the port area in the early hours of October 30th. His phone and bank accounts have shown no activity since that night. On November 19th, Levi's passport was found near a cargo container in the same port area. In February 2023, a new and unsettling element emerged in the case. Levi's family's private investigator recovered a video that Levi had recorded and posted to his Instagram before deleting it. In the 15-minute clip, Levi described being blackmailed. He appeared deeply distressed and claimed that he felt his life was in danger. He said he had reported these allegations to police, although no formal confirmation has been issued regarding whether such a report was filed or acted upon. Levi's friend Mike confirmed that they had previously discussed these allegations. At the time, Mike believed Levi had spoken while under the influence, but the seriousness in Levi's demeanor when posting the video caused him concern. Others close to Levi encouraged him to delete the post, which he eventually did. Further confusion was added in February when a friend claimed that one of their messages to Levi, sent in December, had been marked as read. This raised questions about whether Levi's phone had been accessed after his disappearance, although police have not confirmed any new findings. Additionally, reports surfaced of unusual activity on Levi's Instagram account, including the removal of dozens of contacts. In April 2023, Spanish authorities informed the family of a new theory that Levi may have fallen into the water and drowned. On the night he disappeared, a cruise liner reported seeing a man in the port shouting for help in English. The Coast Guard launched a search, but found no one. Police now suspect that this individual may have been Levi, although no conclusive evidence has been provided, and his case remains open. Levi Davis's disappearance has left a deep void for those who knew and loved him. A man full of promise, energy, and talent simply vanished, leaving behind a trail of questions. As of now, Levi remains missing, and his family continues to seek answers and resolution. Couple mysteriously vanishes. On July 27, 1973, 16-year-old Mitchell Weiser and 15-year-old Benita Bonnie Bickwit were last seen standing along State Route 97 in Narrowsburg, New York. With sleeping bags and a homemade cardboard sign reading Watkins Glen, the young couple planned to hitchhike to one of the largest music events in history, Summer Jam at Watkins Glen. The concert was expected to draw hundreds of thousands of people and featured legendary bands such as the Grateful Dead and the Allman Brothers Band. What was meant to be a memorable summer adventure soon turned into one of New York's most puzzling missing persons cases. Decades later, no one knows for certain whether they ever even arrived at the concert. Mitchell Fred Weiser was born in 1956 and had a passion for photography and baseball. He was an intelligent, kind-hearted teenager who deeply admired the Grateful Dead, even naming his dog after one of their songs, Casey Jones. Benita Mara Bickwit, born in 1958, was described as sweet, bright, and independent. She met Mitchell at John Dewey High School in Brooklyn, a school known for its progressive curriculum and high-achieving students. Their bond grew quickly, and by the summer of 1973, they had been dating for about a year. Mitchell was working a summer internship at a photography studio in Coney Island, while Bonnie had taken a job as a babysitter at Camp Well Met in Narrowsburg. The job, however, came with long hours and little time off. As the date for Summer Jam approached, Mitchell had purchased tickets for himself and a friend named Larry, but when Larry's mother refused to let her son attend, Mitchell invited Bonnie instead. She was thrilled, especially since the job at camp had become increasingly taxing. When Bonnie asked her employers for time off to attend the concert, they denied her request. Frustrated, she quit. She briefly returned home while her family was vacationing, where she retrieved $80 she had been saving for a bicycle. Her family had no idea about her plans until later, when a letter surfaced in which she wrote of the camp, the freedom she felt there, and her hope that she would be granted more independence once she returned home. She also expressed a strong desire to travel, an ambition that would take on an eerie significance in the years to come. On July 26th, Mitchell traveled by bus to Narrowsburg, and the couple spent the night at the camp. The next morning, they were driven by a well-met employee to the town of Narrowsburg, where they were dropped off with their sign and sleeping bags, ready to begin their hitchhiking journey to the concert. That roadside moment was the last confirmed sighting of either of them. When Mitchell failed to return home following the concert, his family began to worry. His father and sister traveled to Camp Well Met looking for him, and learned that neither Mitchell nor Bonnie had returned. Meanwhile, Bonnie's family came back from vacation to find out that their daughter was missing. They were contacted by someone from the camp and quickly joined the Wisers in filing missing persons reports. However, law enforcement initially treated the case as a runaway situation. Camp staff had mentioned that Mitchell and Bonnie had exchanged rings and were engaged, reinforcing the theory that they had eloped and would resurface when they were ready. This assumption proved costly, as the first crucial days and weeks after the disappearance passed without meaningful investigation. Both families took matters into their own hands. They printed and distributed missing person flyers across the country and wrote letters to newspapers and police departments, hoping to spark awareness and generate leads. Despite their tireless efforts, no substantial evidence ever emerged to confirm the whereabouts of Mitchell or Bonnie. Over the years, there were sporadic reports of potential sightings. One account claimed the couple had been seen on a bus headed to Dover, New Hampshire, but this lead was never verified. A pharmacist in Manhattan believed he had filled a prescription for Bonnie, yet this also turned out to be a dead end. The most haunting moment came in 1987, when Mitchell's father, now living in Arizona, received a collect phone call from someone claiming to be Bonnie. He accepted the charges, but by the time the operator returned to the line, the caller had already hung up. The identity of the caller was never confirmed, and while some believed it may have been Bonnie reaching out, others feared it was a cruel prank. The mystery remained unsolved, and the pain endured. Years passed, but the families never gave up. The Wisers even paid to have their phone number listed in directories long after they moved across the country, in case Mitchell ever tried to reach them. Despite their heartbreak, both families held out hope that one day they would learn the truth. The disappearance of Mitchell Weiser and Bonita Bickwit remains one of the oldest active missing teen cases in the United States. Their story continues to haunt those who remember them and serves as a poignant reminder of how quickly a moment of youthful excitement can be swallowed by the unknown. Even after all these years, the hope for resolution lives on, carried by friends, siblings, and the distant possibility that the truth may one day surface. The Mystery Woman. In August 1954, the top of Mount Palomar in the United States hosted a remarkable convention that featured details on mysterious flying aircrafts, detailing eyewitness encounters, and sharing knowledge about sightings that no one knew about. The event took place at an altitude of over 1,800 meters, and different members in the community gathered to exchange ideas and share experiences about these strange phenomena. The convention was highly memorable, and it attracted participants from different parts of the country who were keen to learn and engage in discussions surrounding the convention. Was attended by over 1,000 individuals from various walks of life, including journalists from all over the globe, FBI agents, witnesses, and even individuals who were merely curious. All of the people who were contacted shared their distinct experiences. At the conclusion of the initial day's proceedings, there was a commotion among the attendees as they observed the unanticipated presence of an attractive woman accompanied by a duo of men. One of the men had glasses, and all three individuals were of fair complexion. The woman distinguished herself with her blonde hair and strikingly black and intense eyes. Further standout features included unusual cranial formation and an unusual bone mark on her forehead. During the convention, a journalist from Brazil was in attendance and conducted an interview with a group of individuals who signed the guest book. According to the journalist's research, the woman in the group was named Dolores Barrios, and she identified herself as being a fashion designer from New York. During the meeting the next day, Martins managed to take a photograph of the woman, which surprised her and led to her immediately leaving the area with her two friends. Oddly enough, moments after the three individuals left and ran for the nearby forest, those in attendance reported that a mysterious aircraft was seen taking off and leaving the area at incredible speeds. However, due to the speed in which the aircraft was traveling, the witnesses in attendance reported that they were unable to capture any photographic evidence of the event. Despite thorough investigation, no individuals have come forward to claim knowledge or identification of the unusual individuals depicted in the photographs. As of today, it remains a mystery who they are, what their purpose was, and why they left the event in a hurry. Jerome of Sandy Cove. In September of 1863, an unidentified man was found on the beach of Sandy Cove and given the name Jerome. This man's true identity remains a mystery to this day. The discovery of Jerome sparked curiosity and questions about how he ended up where he did and where he originated from. The individual in question was discovered with amputated legs, leaving him unable to stand. When questioned by locals, he provided limited responses, perhaps indicating a lack of proficiency in both English and French languages. He was requested to reveal his name, but his response was unclear, as he muttered something which sounded like Jerome. Consequently, he was addressed by this name. An 8-year-old boy named George Colin Albright discovered him in the village of Digby Neck, and he was later taken to the Albright family's home to receive proper care and attention. The boy found him in a state of ill health and decided to take it upon himself to bring him back to health. Jerome had undergone a surgical procedure where both of his legs were amputated above the knees, and the incisions showed that the surgeon performing the amputation was highly skilled. It is evident by some that Jerome had lost both of his legs at the same time, but as of right now, researchers are unsure of how this happened. When the man was discovered, it was observed that the stumps on his body were only partially healed and still covered by bandages. In addition, he was experiencing the unpleasant effects of being exposed to cold weather for an extended period of time. Visitors to his sick bed were interested in learning more about him, but were surprised to discover that he was unable to comprehend French, Latin, Italian, or Spanish. These shortcomings highlighted his limited linguistic abilities, which impacted his interactions with foreign partners. According to witnesses, the man in question was observed to be avoiding the attention of the curious onlookers, and when faced with unwanted guests, he growled like a dog to scare them away. The observers also noticed that the man seemed to have hands that were too soft to belong to a manual laborer, and he was described as having a Mediterranean appearance. The family who had found him had a hard time supporting another member, which resulted in him being passed from one household to another. Finally, the Baptist community of Digby Neck suggested that he was a Catholic, and so subsequently sent him to the nearby French community of Mettingen. This experience of being shifted from family to family had a significant impact on Jerome's life. The government then got involved and made the decision to approve a fixed sum of $2 per week to provide financial support to Jerome. After the community persistently attempted to break his aloofness, Jerome was compelled to reside with Jean Nicola, a multilingual Corsican defector. Nicola was unable to engage him in conversation, but Jerome remained residing in the household of Nicola for an additional 7 years. During his stay, he became a beloved companion of the female members of the household. Soon after the passing of Juliette Nicola, her husband relocated to Europe, while Jerome found shelter with Dedier and Zabeth Como near Mettingen. Jerome passed away on the 15th of April, 1912. Decades passed, and various individuals claimed they knew who Jerome was. Many believed the man to be Italian, perhaps a mutilated nobleman who kept his silence to save himself from political rivals. Another theory was that he was an Italian naval officer, injured on board and cruelly abandoned by his crewmates. Those who cared for him claimed he would sometimes utter Colombo and Trieste, further proving that he was Italian. The mystery of the 300-million-year-old wheel found in a 900-meter deep coal mine. In 2008, an unusual and thought-provoking discovery emerged from deep beneath the earth in a coal mine located in Donetsk, Ukraine. While excavating a tunnel approximately 900 meters below the surface, miners working on the J3 Sukhodolsky coal coking stratum encountered something that would leave many both intrigued and baffled: what appeared to be the imprint of a wheel embedded in the ceiling of the sandstone tunnel. The discovery, though not widely publicized at the time, gained attention when Mine Deputy Chief V.V. Kruzhelin photographed the peculiar formation and shared the images with mine foreman S. Kasatkin. This testimony, along with photographs and statements from other mine workers, forms the basis for what has become known as the alleged 300-million-year-old wheel. Due to the brittle and fragile nature of the surrounding sandstone, the imprint could not be removed from the mine without risking damage to it. As a result, the site remains unstudied directly by scientists, and all information available today rests solely on the photographs and first-hand accounts of those who witnessed it before the mine closed in 2009. According to geological assessments, the coal deposits in the Donetsk region are known to originate from the Carboniferous period, a geological era dating from approximately 360 to 300 million years ago. This period is long before the rise of humans or even the appearance of the dinosaurs. If the sandstone that contains the wheel imprint indeed dates to this period, it raises significant questions about the presence of an object that appears to resemble a crafted tool embedded in such ancient rock. In a written account, mine foreman S. Kasatkin elaborated on the situation surrounding the discovery. He explained that once the wheel-like imprint was spotted, the team of miners requested that scientists be brought in to examine the anomaly. However, the mine's director, allegedly acting under the direction of the mine's owner, dismissed this request and instead ordered the team to continue working through the area. As a result, the artifact and a second, smaller imprint discovered shortly afterward were lost beneath tunnel debris and were never recovered for further analysis. Kasatkin mentioned that several engineers and miners saw the imprint firsthand, and that over a dozen individuals could verify its existence. Due to the mine's strict access limitations and hazardous conditions, gaining outside verification was extremely difficult. The crew even attempted to extract the imprint from the sandstone with handheld tools, but ultimately abandoned the effort for fear of damaging it, due to the rock's density and strength. Despite the limitations in physical access and the closure of the mine, the photographs remain the strongest evidence of the find. These images depict what appears to be a wheel-shaped outline embedded in the rock above the miners. Although it's not possible to confirm whether the object was ever an actual wheel or a naturally occurring shape that resembles one, the symmetry and detail suggest a design not commonly seen in random geological formations. Scientists have long debated such anomalies found in ancient rock. While the mainstream view holds that humans and human-made tools did not exist millions of years ago, discoveries like this continue to challenge the conventional narrative. The idea that a wheel or similar man-made object could have become fossilized in rock from the Carboniferous period introduces questions about either the accuracy of geological dating, unknown ancient civilizations, or some yet unexplained process. One theory proposed by some researchers suggests that the imprint may have resulted from a form of fossilization known as diagenesis, where organic or inorganic material slowly dissolves and leaves an impression in surrounding sediment that hardens over millions of years. If that process were at play here, then a physical object, whether artificial or not, would have had to exist at the time the sediment was laid down. That timeline, however, predates not only humanity, but any complex mammals. While critics argue that such anomalies are likely the result of misidentified objects, supporters of the discovery point to the striking resemblance of the imprint to a wheel as reason enough to warrant further investigation. If the account is genuine and the photographs are authentic, the Donetsk wheel may stand as one of the more mysterious findings within the realm of ancient anomalies. Its potential implications stretch across disciplines, from archaeology and geology to human history and the understanding of Earth's distant past. Whether it's an example of a misidentified natural formation or something far more significant remains uncertain. The closure of the mine and the inaccessibility of the original site make further study nearly impossible. With the area now flooded and the mining equipment removed, any future examination may depend on the authenticity and analysis of the photographs and eyewitness testimonies alone. In the end, the discovery poses more questions than it answers. Could it be that human history stretches back far further than currently believed? Might there have been civilizations lost to time, predating the known timeline of human development? Or is this simply a curious geological formation that closely resembles something familiar to us? Until further evidence emerges or the site becomes accessible again, the mystery of the Donetsk Wheel remains one of the many unexplained phenomena that continue to intrigue researchers and spark debate. Like other ancient anomalies scattered throughout the world, it serves as a reminder that despite all the advancements in science and technology, there are still corners of Earth's history that remain hidden beneath layers of rock, time, and mystery. The fate of the Anasazi civilization is a mystery. The Anasazi civilization, also referred to as the ancient Pueblo people, once thrived in the rugged and arid landscapes of the American Southwest. Their presence was most prominent in the modern-day states of Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, and Utah. These ancient people are best remembered for their remarkable architectural achievements, particularly the cliff dwellings carved into sandstone mesas, as well as for their artistic pottery, advanced farming systems, and complex societal structures. Despite their legacy of innovation and resilience, the sudden and unexplained disappearance of the Anasazi remains one of the most compelling mysteries in North American archaeology. The disappearance of the Anasazi, believed to have occurred around the end of the 13th century, has puzzled scholars for decades. Among the most widely accepted explanations is the impact of an extended drought. The region inhabited by the Anasazi was already known for its limited water resources, and tree ring data indicates that a significant drought lasting several decades may have severely disrupted their agricultural practices. The inability to grow sufficient food would have placed enormous strain on their communities, leading to food shortages, migrations, and ultimately the abandonment of once thriving settlements. In addition to environmental stress, there is evidence suggesting that social and political unrest may have contributed to the Anasazi's decline. Some archaeological sites show signs of defensive structures and hastily built walls, indicating that conflicts, either internal or with neighboring groups, could have played a role. Scattered remains at certain sites point to episodes of violence, possibly as a result of competition for dwindling resources during the drought period. As communities struggled to survive, tensions may have escalated, prompting movement away from ancestral lands. Another possibility is that the Anasazi experienced environmental changes beyond just drought. Natural disasters, such as floods, landslides, or wildfires, could have further compromised their ability to maintain stable living conditions. These events may have compounded existing difficulties, making it impossible for some settlements to continue functioning. Changes in animal populations, shifts in vegetation, and degradation of the land from overuse may also have played a role in their gradual disappearance. Despite the uncertainty surrounding their fate, there is growing understanding that the Anasazi did not vanish entirely. Rather than a complete disappearance, many scholars believe the Anasazi gradually migrated and integrated with other Puebloan peoples. Their descendants likely became part of other indigenous groups, such as the Hopi and Zuni, who still inhabit the Southwest today and carry forward many traditions believed to have originated with the Anasazi. In the end, the decline of the Anasazi civilization appears to be the result of a combination of interconnected factors. While many questions remain, ongoing research and respect for oral traditions may one day provide greater clarity. The story of the Anasazi remains a powerful reminder of how deeply human life is intertwined with the environment and the complex challenges ancient communities faced in adapting to their changing world. Mars Curiosity rover records a mysterious cigar-shaped UFO leaving the planet. In 2014, a remarkable discovery was made while examining photographs taken by NASA's Curiosity rover on Mars. UFO researchers spotted a cigar-shaped object hovering above the Martian surface, an anomaly that has since sparked widespread speculation and intrigue. The images, captured by Curiosity's right-hand navigation camera on May 4th, show what appears to be a long, cylindrical white object suspended in the Martian sky for approximately 16 minutes. This unusual sighting has led many to question whether extraterrestrial activity is being observed around Mars, and whether NASA is withholding crucial information about the presence of unknown objects orbiting the red planet. Curiosity has been actively exploring the Gale crater on Mars since 2012, capturing thousands of raw images as part of its mission to study the planet's surface, atmosphere, and geological history. These images are sent back to Earth for analysis, providing scientists and independent researchers alike with an opportunity to examine every aspect of the Martian environment. It was during one of these routine examinations that UFO enthusiasts noticed something unusual: a sleek, elongated object hovering in the sky, unlike anything previously observed on Mars. The shape and appearance of the object immediately caught the attention of researchers. Unlike the usual debris, dust particles, or camera anomalies that can sometimes appear in space imagery, this object exhibited characteristics that suggested it was something far more structured and deliberate. The cylindrical shape has been widely reported in past UFO sightings, particularly those involving so-called cigar-shaped UFOs, which have been observed on Earth for decades. The fact that an object with similar features has now been captured hovering over Mars raises profound questions about the possibility of extraterrestrial activity in the Martian orbit. Perhaps the most compelling aspect of this sighting is that the object remained in the air for 16 minutes. If this were merely an artifact of the camera, an issue with light exposure, or an optical illusion, it would not have persisted for such a significant length of time. Additionally, given Mars's thin atmosphere and lack of strong winds capable of suspending objects in mid-air, the possibility that this was some form of natural debris seems highly unlikely. Researchers argue that the object's presence, position, and duration suggest deliberate movement or control, rather than an uncontrolled environmental phenomenon. This sighting is not the first time cigar-shaped UFOs have been linked to space exploration. If the object seen in Curiosity's 2014 images is indeed an advanced craft, it raises several critical questions. Why was it hovering over Mars? Was it observing the rover, or did it have a separate mission on the planet? Some researchers speculate that Mars, being one of the most Earth-like planets in our solar system, could be of interest to extraterrestrial visitors. If intelligent life exists elsewhere, it would make sense for them to monitor planets that hold potential for life or future colonization. The idea that we are not alone in exploring Mars is both exciting and unsettling. NASA has remained silent on the issue, providing no clear explanation for the anomaly. The space agency has a long history of dismissing UFO-related findings, often attributing them to camera glitches, reflections, or natural phenomena. However, given the object's clear shape, prolonged presence, and structured appearance, these conventional explanations fall short. The lack of an official statement has only fueled speculation that NASA is withholding evidence of extraterrestrial encounters. Some argue that the object could be space debris or a speck of dust on the camera lens, but these explanations fail to account for the sustained appearance of the object for over 16 minutes. If it were dust or a photographic artifact, it would likely appear in only one frame or change position erratically. Instead, the cigar-shaped UFO remained consistently in view, behaving in a way that suggests it was a physical object hovering in Martian airspace. Strange creature found on Mars. In 2015, an unusual photograph taken by NASA's Mars rover ignited widespread curiosity and speculation among enthusiasts and researchers alike. The image appeared to depict a crab-shaped object nestled within the rocky terrain of Mars, instantly sparking a debate about the possibility of life on the red planet. While many saw the image as just another example of Mars's peculiar geological formations, others viewed it as potential evidence of something far more significant. The object in question seemed to have distinct features, outstretched appendages, symmetrical shapes, and a central body that to some observers resembled the form of a crab. This apparent structure led some to suggest that it could be a living creature or even the remains of an ancient sculpture, possibly left behind by an intelligent civilization that once inhabited Mars. These theories, while speculative, caught the attention of countless followers of space exploration, and the image circulated widely across online forums, social media platforms, and websites dedicated to mysteries beyond Earth. Skeptics, however, were quick to offer a more grounded explanation. They pointed out that the so-called crab-like figure was likely the result of seeing shapes or patterns in random or ambiguous visuals. This tendency to see recognizable images, such as animals or faces, in clouds, rocks, or shadows, is well documented and often plays a role in interpreting unusual planetary features. NASA scientists and planetary geologists have consistently emphasized that many strange-looking formations on Mars are simply the result of wind erosion, volcanic activity, and sedimentation over millions of years. Despite the scientific explanations, the image continued to fuel theories about the possibility of extraterrestrial life or even ancient civilizations that might have once thrived on Mars. Some researchers and amateur observers speculated that if intelligent life had once existed on the planet, remnants like this supposed crab might be scattered across its barren surface. Others suggested that such artifacts, if genuine, could point to a more complex history of Mars than currently understood. The fascination with the crab-shaped object reflects a broader human desire to explore and understand the unknown. Mars, with its stark landscapes and history of water presence, has long captured the imagination of scientists and storytellers. Every new image from the Martian surface offers a chance to uncover secrets buried under layers of dust and rock. Even when these secrets turn out to be illusions or misinterpretations, the process of questioning, hypothesizing, and investigating remains at the heart of scientific curiosity. Although the mystery of the crab-shaped object remains unresolved, it continues to symbolize humanity's enduring quest to seek out life beyond Earth. Whether the formation was a natural rock or something more unusual, it encouraged a wave of public engagement with science and sparked discussions about our place in the universe. The mysterious disappearance of Alexander Kruk. On July 17, 2020, Alexander Kruk, a 33-year-old individual, went missing in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The circumstances surrounding his disappearance revolve around his connection with a woman he met online and his intentions to meet her in Mexico. Since then, there has been no trace of him. Alexander Michael Kruk, born on January 15, 1987, hails from Illinois, but predominantly grew up in the vibrant city of Milwaukee, Wisconsin during his formative years. Throughout his journey, he has assumed the esteemed role of a proud father. Demonstrating remarkable talent, Kruk showcased his excellence as an athlete, particularly in the game of baseball. Kruk's life took a turn for the worse during his high school years when he started associating himself with the wrong group of people. Concerned about his well-being, his family made efforts to get him the help he needed by sending him to a rehabilitation center. Following his graduation, Kruk pursued higher education at the University of Wisconsin and Milwaukee Area Technical College, focusing on the field of CNC programming. Additionally, he gained practical experience as a welder subsequent to completing his college education. During the period when he went missing, Kruk was residing with some acquaintances in a residential area located on West Finn Place in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It is worth mentioning that he was quite active on various social media platforms, frequently sharing updates and maintaining regular communication with his family members. This suggests that he had a strong online presence and was actively engaged in staying connected with his loved ones. On the 17th of July, 2020, there was a sighting of Alexander Kruk near West Finn Place in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. At that time, he was reportedly seen in that specific area. Kruk's final interaction with his family occurred through a telephone conversation on August 6, 2020. This communication marked their most recent connection before the present moment. Following his unavailability, his family proceeded to file a report of a missing person with the Milwaukee Police Department, concerned about his whereabouts and unable to establish any communication with him. Alexander Kruk was beset by health challenges, and his family holds the belief that his psychological well-being was deteriorating during the period when he went missing. Kruk's acquaintances have shared that he allegedly formed a connection with an individual through an online platform prior to his vanishing. It was revealed that they engaged in conversations about potentially embarking on a journey to Texas, followed by a subsequent visit to Mexico in order to meet this woman in person. Despite the urging of his friends to reconsider, there is no concrete evidence validating that Kruk ever arrived at either of these destinations, raising doubts about the fruition of his travel plans. According to Kruk's acquaintances, he mentioned his intention to travel to California via a Greyhound bus, hinting at the prospect of a lucrative opportunity. However, there is a lack of evidence to substantiate the claim that he actually departed from Wisconsin. Kruk, prior to his mysterious disappearance, was devoid of both financial resources and the means for international travel, such as a passport or any form of transportation. It is worth noting that he did not possess an automobile and predominantly relied on alternative methods of mobility, such as walking, utilizing public transportation, or seeking assistance from fellow individuals for commutation purposes. According to a family member of Kruk, in July 2020, there was a sighting of him in the company of a Hispanic woman, although her identity remains unknown. It was reported that during that time, she was driving either a maroon Nissan Murano or a white Nissan sedan. This information showcases the potential connection between Kruk and the Hispanic woman, raising questions about their relationship and the circumstances surrounding their encounter. According to numerous acquaintances, there are several individuals who assert that they have encountered the mysterious woman as well. They affirm that she would occasionally provide him with meals and offer transportation services. After a thorough investigation, law enforcement officials have determined that there is no indication of any criminal activity involved in the mysterious vanishing of Alexander Kruk. The exact circumstances surrounding Alexander's disappearance continue to elude the authorities, leaving his case classified as a missing person. The disappearance of Julia Ann Bean. Julia Ann Bean, a 36-year-old woman, went missing on May 31, 2017, in Sumter, South Carolina. Her disappearance occurred shortly after she was spotted in the company of a mysterious unidentified male. The circumstances surrounding her disappearance raise numerous questions. Julia Ann Bean, a woman born on May 2, 1981, has the important role of being a mother to 3 children. Bean's friends and relatives have revealed that during the period when she went missing, she was grappling with personal challenges. Furthermore, her daughter recollected instances where various men provided her with money. In Sumter, South Carolina, on the fateful day of May 31, 2017, Julia Ann Bean, a woman in her prime, was last sighted by her concerned daughter in the vicinity of Red Bay Road. This particular day held promises of mother-daughter bonding, as they had eagerly planned to indulge in a pampering session at the local nail salon. However, as fate would have it, Bean arrived at the establishment accompanied by an unfamiliar gentleman who was in charge of maneuvering a somber-looking dark truck. The gentleman informed his daughter about his ownership of multiple lake houses and large boats, extending an invitation for her to host a boat party whenever she desired. Furthermore, he expressed his willingness to accompany her to a concert and even expressed his desire to marry Bean. Bean's daughter, whose high school graduation was just a day away, generously handed over a pair of tickets to a man, enabling him to be a part of the momentous ceremony alongside Bean. This act of kindness exemplifies the strong bond between Bean's daughter and the man. Bean failed to make an appearance at her daughter's momentous graduation ceremony and has remained elusive ever since, with no communication being established. On the 18th of November, in the year 2017, the family of this individual took the necessary step of submitting a report to the Sumter Police Department, expressing their concern over her sudden disappearance. Bean inadvertently forgot to bring along her wallet, cell phone, and keys when she left her house. In terms of financial resources, she possessed a substantial amount of $5,000 deposited in her bank account, in addition to an undisclosed amount of cash kept inside her purse. At the time when Bean went missing, she did not possess a mobile phone. There are suspicions of foul play surrounding the mysterious disappearance of Julia Ann Bean. The exact details of her disappearance are still unclear, and as a result, her case is currently labeled as a missing persons case. This unsettling situation remains unresolved, leaving unanswered questions and lingering concerns. The disappearance of Alexis Ware. Alexis Ware, a 29-year-old woman, went missing in Anderson, South Carolina on January 30th, 2022. Her disappearance occurred following a meeting with her former partner at a gas station. The circumstances surrounding her vanishing remain a matter of concern, leaving her friends and family worried. Alexis Ware, who resided in Greenville, South Carolina, went missing along with her 2 children. Her household consisted of a 9-year-old daughter and a 2-year-old son. This disappearance case has garnered significant attention due to the circumstances surrounding her absence. Alexis, a skilled hairstylist, operated her own home studio where she catered to a loyal clientele. With a strong presence on social media, she aspired to venture into the realm of Instagram modeling, utilizing her creativity and expertise to showcase various hairstyles and fashion trends. Beyond her immediate goals, Alexis harbored long-term ambitions of establishing an exclusive boutique in the vibrant city of Atlanta, envisioning it as a stepping stone towards a better future for her family. Over the course of a leisurely weekend from January 29th to January 31st, 2022, Alexis Ware decided to take a break from her usual routine in Greenville, South Carolina. Eager to spend quality time with her loved ones, she embarked on a journey to her mother's residence. She expressed her feelings of anxiety and unease to her mother, recounting her experiences of being followed and receiving unwelcome calls from an unidentified individual. These unnerving encounters had left her with a deep sense of fear, causing her to doubt whether she would even reach the milestone of her impending 30th birthday. In the early afternoon of January 30th, 2022, Sarah Ware bid farewell to her mother and embarked on her journey back to her hometown of Greenville. 3 hours later, at precisely 3 in the afternoon, she engaged in a heartfelt conversation with her mother through the convenience of a video chat, during which she casually mentioned her intention to catch up on some much-needed rest. In the evening, at approximately 7, Ware made her way to the 7-Eleven store located on Highway 29 North in Anderson, South Carolina. Her intention was to meet T.J. Patterson, the father of her youngest child. Upon arrival, she entrusted the care of their children to him, after which they departed the premises in their respective vehicles. Ware was originally intended to accompany Patterson to his mother's residence before returning to her own mother's abode. However, as per reports, at some juncture, she purportedly maneuvered her vehicle ahead of his at a red traffic signal and swiftly accelerated into the darkness of the night. In the evening, precisely at 7:30, Patterson took the initiative to reach out to Ware's mother and provided a detailed account of the events leading to their separation. Patterson expressed her concern by attempting to call her daughter's cell phone. However, her attempts were unsuccessful as the call directly diverted to her voicemail. Alexis Ware, a young woman with a promising future, mysteriously disappeared without a trace and did not make it back to her home. On the first day of February in the year 2022, the family of the individual in question took the step of submitting a report to the Anderson County Sheriff's Office, as they were unable to establish contact with her. In the evening of January 30th, 2022, there was a significant event related to Ware's cell phone. At precisely 8:15 in the evening, her cell phone sent a signal that indicated its location as Anderson, South Carolina. This important piece of information provided a starting point for further investigation. Furthermore, there were additional sightings of her car captured by surveillance cameras at an apartment complex in Anderson on multiple occasions throughout that night. In the late hours of that very evening, the surveillance cameras along the highway in Augusta, Georgia, approximately 1 hour's drive away, captured the presence of Ware's car. However, it remains uncertain as to whether Alexis Ware herself was behind the wheel of the vehicle during that particular moment in time. This raises questions about the identity of the individual who may have been operating the vehicle. On the 1st of February, 2022, the vehicle belonging to Ware, which was a red Honda Accord manufactured in the year 2019 and bearing a South Carolina license plate, was discovered abandoned and heavily coated in mud. This peculiar finding took place in a hunting field located in McCormick, South Carolina, approximately 30 miles to the south of Anderson. Ware lacked any companions or relatives in the vicinity of McCormick. Interestingly, her cell phone, purse, and identification documents were discovered within the vehicle itself, indicating their undeniable presence. Furthermore, an assortment of garments was recovered from the trunk, suggesting possible intention for a change of attire. On a peculiar note, her hair bonnet was stumbled upon lying on the ground adjacent to the automobile. This collection of intriguing details raises profound questions and warrants further investigation into the circumstances surrounding Ware's situation in the McCormick area. In their investigative efforts, the police successfully obtained fingerprints from the vehicle in question. However, they have refrained from disclosing any information regarding the potential match between these prints and the individual suspected to be Ware or any other person involved in the case. T.J. Patterson, in his statement to the authorities, recounted that on January 30th, he departed for home after meeting with Alexis at the gas station. The following day, he proceeded to work as usual. As part of the investigation, surveillance footage from the gas station's parking lot was carefully examined, revealing no unusual activities or circumstances. This thorough analysis aimed to gain a comprehensive understanding of the events surrounding T.J. Patterson's activities during this time period and provide additional insights into the case. Currently, there have been no individuals identified as persons of interest in the case of Alexis's disappearance. However, the police have made it clear that they are actively investigating all potential leads and considering every possibility. In the investigation into Alexis Ware's disappearance, the police have thoroughly examined the case and have not come across any evidence, means, or motives indicating foul play. The details surrounding the disappearance of Alexis Ware are shrouded in mystery, leaving investigators with little information to work with. At present, her whereabouts remain unknown, and the case remains unsolved. The Paris Catacombs, a vast subterranean labyrinth beneath the streets of Paris, have long captured the imagination of adventurers, historians, and thrill-seekers alike. Originally built as quarries to mine limestone during the Roman era, the catacombs were later repurposed as a mass burial site in the 18th century, housing the remains of more than 6 million Parisians. In the 1990s, chilling found footage emerged, capturing the harrowing journey of a man who got lost within the catacombs and was never seen again. The Paris catacombs encompass more than 200 miles of underground tunnels, chambers and galleries, making it one of the largest ossuaries in the world. Over the centuries, the catacombs have served various purposes, from a clandestine meeting place for revolutionaries during the French Revolution to a hideout for members of the French resistance during World War II. Despite the fascinating history of the catacombs, their vast and labyrinth nature presents a significant danger to those who venture off the designated paths. The maze of tunnels can be disorienting, and inexperienced explorers run the risk of becoming lost or trapped within the catacombs. In the early 1990s, a group of Parisian catacomb explorers, known as cataphiles, stumbled upon a discarded video camera deep within the tunnels. The camera contained a chilling piece of found footage, which captured the journey of an unidentified man as he ventured deeper into the catacombs, eventually becoming disoriented and lost. The footage shows the man's mounting panic and desperation as he navigates the seemingly endless maze of tunnels, before ultimately abandoning his camera and disappearing into the darkness. The found footage was later aired in a 2000 documentary titled The Forbidden Paris Catacombs, sparking widespread interest and speculation about the identity and fate of the lost explorer. The authenticity of the found footage has been a subject of debate among skeptics and enthusiasts alike. While some believe the footage to be a genuine documentation of the man's harrowing experience, others have argued that it could be an elaborate hoax staged to create a sensational story. Nevertheless, the footage has prompted numerous investigations and search efforts to uncover the identity of the lost explorer and determine his ultimate fate. Despite these efforts, the man's identity remains unknown, and no trace of him has been found within the catacombs. Several theories have been proposed to explain the man's disappearance, ranging from the possibility that he succumbed to hypothermia or dehydration in the tunnels, to the more sinister notion that he was intentionally led astray by malicious individuals or supernatural forces. Nonetheless, the existence of the footage can be supported by an argument, given that no one has come forward to claim the ownership of it ever since it was initially broadcasted almost 2 decades ago. Even those involved in the documentary haven't made much noise around it, leading many to believe that it's unlikely that they're benefiting from it financially. Assuming the authenticity of the found footage, the main concern is to uncover the fate of the individual. Investigating this specific topic has posed difficulties in terms of reliable sources, given the scarcity of information available. Although various sources have linked paranormal activity to the video, researchers who live close to the area believe that a more plausible explanation can be derived. The catacombs consist of tunnels that extend for 150 to 200 miles, making it easy to become disoriented and lost. As evident from past rescues of stranded teenagers, it's not uncommon for people to lose their way amidst the catacombs. With temperatures averaging at 60 degrees Fahrenheit, it's possible that the man in the video lost his bearings and eventually succumbed to hypothermia. The enigma of the found footage of the lost Paris catacombs explorer continues to captivate and mystify those who delve into the dark history of this subterranean ossuary. The chilling footage serves as a stark reminder of the dangers inherent in venturing into the catacombs, as well as a testament to the enduring allure of the unknown. The fate of the lost explorer remains a mystery, shrouded in the shadows of the Parisian underworld and the murky depths of human imagination. The chilling atmosphere and macabre history of this subterranean world have given rise to countless legends, ghost stories, and tales of supernatural encounters. The Paris catacombs originated as limestone quarries during the Roman era, supplying materials for the city's construction. By the 18th century, Paris was grappling with the issue of overcrowded cemeteries, particularly the Central Cemetery of the Innocents, which was becoming a public health hazard. On April 30th, SpaceX's colossal Falcon Heavy rocket effectively deployed 3 satellites into high Earth orbit, marking a significant milestone, as it was the first time that none of the rocket's boosters were retrieved. On the evening of Sunday, April 30th, the rocket launched, and all stages performed as expected, delivering the trio of payloads to geostationary Earth orbit. The exhaust emitted from the rocket created an impressive spectacle, as observed from a perspective on the ground. Elon Musk, the CEO of SpaceX, has expressed that he would consider it a success if the new Falcon Heavy rocket manages to launch without any issues. The rocket engines were successfully tested at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida, paving the way for its first ever flight in the upcoming weeks. However, during this mission, users watching the live stream said that they saw strange objects in the background. This caused the users to take videos of the objects and post them to social media. Oddly enough, those who investigate the unknown have said that this isn't the first time that mysterious objects have been captured during SpaceX missions, and it's caused some to suggest that these videos could be proof of unidentified objects. In the vast expanse of the night sky, the Falcon Heavy rocket soared into space, carrying a payload of satellites destined for orbit. The atmosphere at the launch site was electrifying, with spectators and engineers watching the powerful engines ignite, propelling the spacecraft towards the stars. Among the eager onlookers were those interested in unidentified objects. One user named Tom said they had always been captivated by the mysteries of the universe, and he couldn't resist the opportunity to witness a SpaceX mission firsthand. Armed with his trusty telescope and camera, he set up his equipment in a prime viewing spot. As the rocket climbed higher and higher into the sky, leaving a trail of exhaust behind, Tom scanned the surrounding area with his telescope. His eyes widened as he noticed something peculiar, a light object hovering in the vicinity of the spacecraft. It appeared to be glowing and staying close to the rocket. He quickly viewed the live feed in order to confirm his sighting, and noted that the mysterious object seemed to effortlessly match the speed and trajectory of the Falcon Heavy, stating that it maintained a steady distance. He was one of the people who uploaded the footage to social media, saying that you can see 2 objects flying past the rocket. He said that its smooth and seamless movements indicated an advanced level of technology. In recent years, there have been numerous reports of unidentified objects in close proximity to SpaceX missions. These sightings have sparked curiosity and intrigue among both space enthusiasts and enthusiasts alike. While the exact nature and origin of these UFOs remain a subject of debate, several factors can be considered to understand why they are often observed near SpaceX missions. Firstly, the launch of a SpaceX mission attracts significant attention from the public and media. These missions involve advanced technology, groundbreaking achievements, and the exploration of outer space. Such high-profile events naturally draw the interest of individuals who are interested in unidentified objects. As a result, people are more likely to be actively observing the skies during these missions, increasing the chances of spotting unusual aerial phenomena. Secondly, the presence of mysterious aircrafts near SpaceX missions may be attributed to the characteristics of the rockets and spacecraft themselves. SpaceX has been at the forefront of developing innovative technologies and pushing the boundaries of space exploration. Moreover, it is important to acknowledge the possibility that some of these sightings may be misinterpretations or misidentifications of conventional objects or atmospheric phenomena. However, it is worth noting that some sightings near SpaceX missions defy conventional explanations. Witnesses have reported witnessing objects that exhibit extraordinary flight characteristics, such as sudden changes in direction, rapid acceleration, or hovering in place. These sightings challenge our understanding of known aerodynamic principles and raise intriguing questions about the nature of these objects. One possible explanation for the presence of mysterious aircrafts near SpaceX missions is the hypothesis that advanced civilizations may be monitoring our technological advancements and space exploration efforts. It is conceivable that highly advanced civilizations from other star systems are curious about our progress and are observing our activities. SpaceX missions, with their cutting-edge technology and ambitious goals, could be of particular interest to these civilizations. Another perspective suggests that the sightings near SpaceX missions could be related to the phenomenon known as interstellar transit. According to this theory, advanced extraterrestrial civilizations may be utilizing gravitational assists from spacecraft or harnessing energy from rockets to facilitate their own interstellar travel. In this scenario, the sightings could be instances of these civilizations taking advantage of the gravitational or energy fields created by SpaceX missions. While the true nature of these sightings near SpaceX missions remains a mystery, they underscore the need for continued scientific exploration and open-mindedness. It is essential to investigate and analyze these reports using rigorous scientific methods, taking into account both conventional and unconventional explanations.